Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative, and today's book review is going to be about Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. And if you haven't been following along on my channel previous to this review, I decided I wanted to reread some of my favorite love stories for the month of February and just celebrate the month of love. And this one is without a doubt not only one of my favorite love stories, and when I say love story, I mean this is a beautiful example of unconditional love. Not only that, it is a beautiful story of redemption. I literally cannot express to you how wonderful this book is on so many different levels. When you look at the cover, it is very girly. And when I discovered this book, I actually worked at Lifeway Christian Bookstore at the time, and I recommended this book to so many people, and the majority of people that shopped at the bookstore were men. They were pastors, youth directors, that nature. And when I would hand them this book with this cover, it really turned them off. And so it wasn't just the people at my store doing that. It was kind of across the board. Men were turned off by the cover. So they actually re-released it with a different cover so that men would read it and not feel odd. So this edition of Redeeming Love was copyright in 1997, and I do believe it is the first Christian book that Francine Rivers wrote. She previously was a secular romance novel writer, and events in her life led her to finally discover Christ. It finally led her to a place in her Christianity where she finally felt she knew God and solidified her belief. And so at that point, she turned to writing Christian novels. Now, do not be, if you are not a Christian, you are not a religious person, do not let that put you off. This is not a book for only Christians to read. This is a book for everybody. It's just that she is a Christian author, and it is a fictional work based off a book of the Bible called Hosea. You, even without the religious aspect, you can read this book and you will love this book. I mean, I definitely do. It's one of my favorites. So here's what the back cover has to say about it. California's gold country, 1850. A time when men sold their souls for a bag of gold and women sold their bodies for a place to sleep. Angel expects nothing from men but betrayal. Sold into prostitution as a child, she survives by keeping her hatred alive. And what she hates most are the men who used her, leaving her empty and dead inside. Then she meets Michael Hosea, a man who seeks his father's heart in everything. Michael Hosea obeys God's call to marry Angel and to love her unconditionally. Slowly, day by day, he defies Angel's every bitter expectation until, despite her resistance, her frozen heart begins to thaw. Oh, I'm not gonna cry. I'm literally gonna cry reading this back jacket. But with her, it's just the beauty of the illustration of unconditional love in this book is unlike any other story I've ever read. It's literally unmatched. Okay, back to the back jacket. But with her unexpected softening come overwhelming feelings of unworthiness and fear, and so Angel runs back to the darkness, away from her husband's pursuing love, terrified of the truth she can no longer deny. Her final healing must come from the one who loves her more than Michael Hosea does, the one who will never let her go. A powerful retelling of the book of Hosea, Redeeming Love, is a life-changing story of God's unconditional, redemptive, all-consuming love. Something told me to pack a tissue for this one. So, as I mentioned, and as the back jacket mentioned, it is a fictional retelling based on the book of Hosea, and the book of Hosea is part of the Hebrew Bible. So, to briefly sum up the book of Hosea for you. So the book of Hosea, I believe, is considered one of the 12 minor prophets of the Hebrew Bible. I may be wrong on that, but it is set around the fall of Israel. And the book of Hosea denounces the worship of any other gods other than Yahweh. Israel's abandonment of Yahweh is metaphorically compared to that of an unfaithful woman to her husband. And the narrative of this book of the Bible is that the relationship between Hosea and his unfaithful wife Gomer is comparable to the relationship between Yahweh and his unfaithful people of Israel. So the eventual reconciliation of Hosea and Gomer is treated as a hopeful metaphor between a hopeful reconciliation between Yahweh and the people of Israel. So the main characters and the love story are between Angel and Michael. But you could also kind of argue it's a love story between God, Michael, and also Angel. It just depends on how you want to look at it, how you believe or don't believe. That's how I choose to look at it. But the prologue explains to you what happened to Angel as a child and the fact that she was sold into prostitution at the age of 8. Basically, Angel never knew true love or unconditional love. She was purchased by a man named Duke, who I believe represents the devil in this story. And the things that happen to her as she's growing up being a prostitute, she builds walls, she shows no emotion, she basically just kind of shuts herself off. So she thinks. It does kind of reach ahead, and she does escape. She catches a boat to California, but she literally knows no other skills. She's by herself. She's beaten and robbed as soon as she gets there, and next thing you know, she's gone back to the only thing she knows how to do, and that is she's back into prostitution for a brothel in California. So Michael, just as in the book of Hosea with Hosea, walking down the street in town, Angel walks by, God says that's the one, and he's like, all right, cool, because her beauty is literally sounds angelic. Like, she is the highest priced prostitute anywhere she's ever been. And so he sees her and he's like, all right, that's cool, I'm in. Later he finds out that she's a prostitute, and what I love about this story is Michael is not afraid to question God. A lot of Christians that I've talked to have just kind of been what I call blindly faithful. I guess they don't think it's okay to question God or ask him questions about why things are the way they are. So I really appreciated that she illustrated that this guy had no problem, and he did push back at times. But I see this story from a religious aspect. Angel is the sinner. Michael is indicative of the Savior. He is showing her his love for Christ and the way that he lives and leads his life. And then Duke is most definitely the devil. It's just a tale of how Michael loves her unconditionally, and even though she leaves him, just like Gomer left Hosea, she leaves him and goes back into prostitution, and she leaves him because she doesn't understand. She wants him to have better than her. She literally cannot forgive herself for what she had no control over as a child, but she sees herself as unclean, unfit, and that Michael deserves more because she knows he wants children, and Duke had something done to her when she had accidentally gotten pregnant when she was in prostitution for him. She thinks she can't have children, and if you are a believer in Christianity, at the end, she tells Michael her real name, and Michael knows that that's God's promise to him about having children. It's so well done. I'm crying again. Okay, so evidently I cannot get through this review without crying. If you want a book that is the most beautiful illustration of unconditional love I've ever come in contact with, you should definitely read this book if you haven't already. Actually, all of Francine Rivers' books are just beautiful, but this one is my favorite. I will reread this one many more times in the years to come. If you've read it, please drop me a comment below and tell me what you thought about it. I would love to see how you think about it. Anybody that I have ever recommended this book to that read it thanked me for the recommendation. No one has ever read this book and not loved it. I will warn you, you will not want to put it down. You're going to cry several times. You're going to cry from being heartbroken. You're going to cry from happiness. So I'm going to quit talking about it. I want you to read it. I don't want to spoil it any further with any other information about it, except that it is the most beautiful story of redemption and love that I've ever read. I would have to say this is probably one of my top 5 books ever. And that says a lot because my genre where I live is science fiction fantasy. And this book is completely unlike my usual favorites or books that I'm interested in reading. And so for it to find its place there really says a lot. But that's it for my review today. I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope you read this book. You will not be disappointed. And please let me know what you think about it. Comment, like, and subscribe below if you haven't already. Any of those helps my channel grow. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic and most amazing rest of your day. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.